Hi, everyone, and welcome to Attentive Healthcare Solutions webinar. We're excited to be presenting Preparedness for Unexpected Downtime Situations and Business Continuity. My name is Chelsea Grover, and I'm the Marketing Communications Coordinator for Attentive. I'd like to take a moment to explain the process for today's presentation. First, I'd like to mention that this webinar will be recorded, and that we'll be sending out copies of the slides along with the recording within the next week. Next, for those of you who aren't familiar with Attentive, I wanted to share a bit of who we are with you. We specialize specifically in NextGen healthcare, and our goal in life is to make delighted clients by helping them get the absolute most out of their NextGen software investment. We're passionate about providing solutions for our healthcare provider partners, which in turn help them to improve patient care, enhance the patient experience, and maintain a financially healthy practice. To sum it up, we do everything NextGen. We also have NextGen add-on productivity solutions, including ChartGuard, which you're going to be seeing today, and Refund Manager, which helps on the PM side of things. Next, I wanted to mention an upcoming educational webinar that we'll be presenting on July 15th on regulatory changes to be aware of for 2021 and beyond. In that, we're going to be covering advanced use criteria, E&M coding changes for 2021, interoperability updates, and what this means for your NextGen practice. We'll be sending out an invitation to that recording a week before the we'll be sending out an invitation to the webinar a week before that takes place, so make sure to check your email for that. So back to today's presentation. At the end of the presentation, we'll open the floor up to questions from you. We'll answer all the questions at the end, but you may type them in the questions area of the webinar control panel whenever they occur to you. And finally, for audio clarity purposes, everyone's phone will remain muted throughout the entire webinar. If you experience audio issues, please use the chat box to let us know so we can resolve them. And again, questions may be entered in the questions box. So without further delay, I'd like to introduce our presenters for today. Tom Seco is Attentive's Business Development Manager and subject matter expert on the products, and Joe Schultz is Director of Product Solutions at Attentive, which means that he and his team are the people that actually built this great program and thus is going to be in a great position to demonstrate it. So Tom, I'm going to pass it off to you. Feel free to get started when you're ready.
Okay, thank you very much, Chelsea, and thank you for attending today's webinar about accessing your patient records during unexpected system outage. As Chelsea said, my name's Tom Seco, and I'm the Business Development Manager with Attentive. Here's an agenda that we're going to cover today. So what you'll find out is why practices invest in this type of a solution. We'll talk a little bit about EHR dependencies. We'll talk about how a business continuity solution works, and specifically how our solution works. And then I'll show you the output that's generated by ChartGuard so you can see that. And then we'll come back and give you an overview about who Attentive is in a little more detail. Then we'll answer any questions that you have. In the middle of the presentation, I will turn it over to Joe Schultz, and he'll take you through how our ChartGuard solution works. So to start today, simply what we're talking about today is a business continuity solution that ensures the availability of your patient charts during EHR downtime. So, we all know that our EHR systems are based on complex technology. We have servers, we have workstation, we have tablets, we have scanners, we have local area networks, we got T1 lines, we have fiber lines, we have wireless routers, wireless base stations, we have VPNs, we have internet connections, power systems, and cooling systems. And behind all of these components also is software that runs each of these components. So when we lose access to our EHR system, it has impacts to our practice and to our health center. Our quality of care can be impacted because we do not have access to our patient's health record, and we may not recall all of their history when we're standing in front of them and having our visit with them. So if that's the case, then we have to start asking questions, and maybe we have to ask a lot of questions. And when we start doing that, that can lead to taking more time than usual, which then can lead to lower productivity because we're taking longer time than usual. And then we can lose revenue because we may have to turn away patients, or patients are leaving because the wait is taking longer now. So all these things, when we lose access to our EHR system, has an impact on various aspects of our business. Because we've become so dependent on technology and it works nearly all the time for us. We tend to put outages that occur, back in the back of our mind and not really think about it. So what can cause us to have an issue with any of these components that I talked about on the previous slide? So periodically I go out and do searches for outages that have occurred. And what this slide shows to you on the screen is a few outage occurrences that have occurred over the past few years, why they happened, and for how long has the outage occurred. So it's good to take a moment and think about this and recall some of these examples as to why systems fail. The point here is really that things happen that are out of our control, and that's why they become unexpected. So some things are mechanical, so HVAC systems, sprinkler systems. Some are computer-based, hardware-based. Some are software-based. Some are nature-based, and some are caused by humans. People with good intentions who make mistakes, and other people who have bad intentions who want to cause disruption and cause chaos. So all of these occurrences happen, and they can cause us to lose access to our systems and unexpectedly. When there have been some studies that have been done over the years with regards to what does a downtime situation cost when we lose access to our EHR system. Some of those studies have shown that it can cost as much as $488 per hour per provider. So it can be quite expensive. And if you take a 10 provider practice that's down for 4 hours, that can cost as much as $19,520. So the cost can be significant. And that's cost of productivity, cost of revenue. So that's what goes into that cost. Because we have situations that can affect our EHR systems, HIPAA has a clause that says we should have a contingency plan in place for responding to various emergencies and situations that impact our EHR systems. This is another reason why organizations purchase a business continuity solution. So if one of our systems goes down, our EHR system goes down, what are our options? Well, we could temporarily close the practice and close the location. We could go to paper charts, but that's becoming obviously more and more difficult as time goes on and we become more and more dependent on our EHR systems. We could implement fully redundant technologies, so meaning that we could add more servers, we could add another network, we could add more storage area networks, we could add another data center, we could add another power system or another cooling system. When we get into these redundant technologies or these types of replication of components, the cost can increase as well. Some organizations that have their systems in-house, maybe they think a hosting is a viable alternative, but if you really think about it, hosting has its risks as well, meaning that if you're hosting environment, you have to have an internet connection to get out to that hosting environment. So if you lose your internet connection because of a construction situation, you won't be able to get out. And then another option would be to implement a solution that ensures that you are prepared to handle a downtime situation. So these are all of the options that are available to you as an organization that you have if your EHR system goes down and you want to have a solution in place that will get you by. So as reflect on what I just talked about, and think about these things, that our systems are complex, that our systems are dependent on many components, that our downtime is caused by unexpected events that are beyond our control. And we think about, what our options are when a downtime situation occurs. The questions you should be asking is, and what you should be thinking about are, one, do I pursue an uptime solution? Do I pursue adding more components to make sure that I'm up 100% of the time? Or do I pursue a solution that enables me to continue on with my business until NextGen comes back online. Another question to ask is, am I going to be reactive or proactive in my clinics and my organization's preparedness for a downtime situation? Am I going to wait until I have a downtime situation and then look for a solution? Or am I going to be proactive and say, you know, it's most likely an unexpected event may hit us, and let's be prepared for it in the event that it does. Another question to ask is, what are the types of impacts that a NextGen downtime incident can have on our clinic? You know, we talked about the impacts earlier, impacts of what's the impact on productivity, what's the impact on the quality of care, what's the impact on revenue that could be lost, what's the impact on patient satisfaction. And once you identify what those impacts are and how they would affect your organization, you know, what's the significance of that impact to your clinic or to your office location based on the duration of the downtime incident? Meaning, if I have an impact of lost revenue and I'm down for an hour, what is that? If I'm down for 2 hours, what is that? If I'm down for 3 hours, what is that? And do that for each of the impact areas that you're analyzing, whether that's productivity loss, whether that's revenue loss, whether that's quality of care loss, whether that's patient satisfaction loss, and assess that for duration of time. Like I said, for 1 hour, for 2 hours, for 3 hours, for 4 hours. They'll give you an idea of what to look at. And then how do I minimize that loss, and how would I minimize that disruption when a downtime situation does occur? So how do I minimize the loss of productivity? How would I minimize the loss of revenue? How do I minimize the loss of quality of care? How do I minimize this disruption that's going to happen to my office location, to my physicians, to my providers? How do I minimize that and minimize that disruption? The question should not be asking is, will my clinic lose connectivity? Because as we saw on a previous slide, at the various types of downtime outages that can occur, and based on the different ways that it can occur, you can pretty much guarantee at some point your whole clinic may come down, your office location may come down, a physician may lose access, a provider may lose access to the HR system. So just some thoughts that you can have. So a little bit about our solution and what ChartGuard does. ChartGuard is a cost-effective, easy-to-use business continuity solution. It ensures, one, that you're prepared for a downtime situation at each of your office locations or clinic locations. Each of your physicians and providers is prepared to handle a situation, and that you have access to your patient charts during an EHR downtime situation. That's simply what our solution does. So I'm going to turn it over to Joe, and Joe's going to take you through how ChartGuard works.
Thank you. And thank you for everyone who's joining us today. We appreciate it. ChartGuard was designed to make your patient information available at a time where NextGen is not available. As Tom was alluding to, the most common outage we see is on the network side, but it could be something as routine as maintenance that went too long. Maybe they were doing a NextGen upgrade and the morning came too fast and the patients are in there, but the system's not up yet. So there's a variety of different things that can happen, which cause us. In fact, just yesterday, T-Mobile had a major outage, and we have clients who use cellular as a backup to their current network lines. So as Tom showed in his slide, and as we continue to see, there's still a whole lot of stuff outside of our control. And again, we encourage you to do the smart and inexpensive redundancies, but there's a point where the curve goes straight up and those redundancies get more and more expensive, just trying to close the gap on that fraction of a percentage of uptime. And that's where ChartGuard comes into play. It's really insurance. It's no longer keeping all your clinical information eggs in a single basket. You have them in NextGen, but you also have them in the charts that ChartGuard is going to create out of your NextGen data. ChartGuard is set up with a complex back end and a really simple front end. The complex backend goes into your NextGen database, looks at your appointment schedule, and creates PDF files of each patient's chart based on who's coming in the next few days. It'll also copy that PDF file out to the location where the patient is scheduled. That happens automatically for you every night. So at each location, if we look at this chart here, this graph, what we're seeing is in the corners, we have the locations, in the middle, we have your data center. So ChartGuard is going to wake up, it's going to call through your database, it's going to pull the information that you've picked out, and it's going to put that in the PDF file. And if you think about our paper charts a decade ago, that's what the PDF file is going to represent. Now that'll get pushed out to the remote sites along with an appointment listing for each remote site so you know who's coming in. At the remote sites, the simplicity of using a PDF file is that the PDF can be read on virtually any computing device. To begin, you give us a shared location on a drive on a PC at that site. We'll copy it out there. If the network is down at that site, you can print it to paper using a directly attached printer. Use that appointment schedule so you know when people are coming in, so you know when to print those charts to paper. If the network within the four walls of that location is up, but the data center is inaccessible, then you can take those PDF files and access them locally within that location. So they could pull them up on their phones, on their tablets, on their laptops, whatever devices normally have access to your network within that location. So it gives you a real simple front end. One of the things we were looking at in the early design of ChartGuard was we didn't want to have an EHR to back up your EHR. We needed the delivery of the clinical information to be so simple that in a downtime situation where really all you have is electricity and a PC and a printer, you could get to that clinical information either by printing it or using it electronically. So this is a key differentiator of ChartGuard. It's really designed not to be another EHR that backs up your EHR, but really to provide that clinical information at each location. Additionally, ChartGuard also does the cleanup. So if we're looking 3 days ahead in the appointment schedule and creating those PDF files as charts for the patients coming in, it'll keep a rolling window of those 3 days. So you won't end up accumulating a lot of charts out there that are outdated and that you don't really want on the PC. So again, just trying to keep that front end really simple so that you can go get those charts very quickly. What's in those charts? Well, Tom, if you want to go to the next slide, you're going to get, as I mentioned, each location is going to get their daily appointment listing. And then within the PDF files that Tom will show you in a moment, you're going to get a patient data sheet that has their demographics and insurances, good things like that. You're going to get some grids that show you your NextGen module information, as you see here. And you can get your documents, whether they're EHR generated documents or items scanned into ICS. Now you look at this and you go, well, what if the patient's been coming here for 10 years? That could be 100 pages. Well, as part of the configuration of ChartGuard, we'll work with you to set the depth and scope of what's going to be in there. For example, if the patient's coming in, you don't really necessarily care about that visit 10 years ago, but you may care about the visits within the last year. So we let you set either by age or number of occurrences, the things that you want to put in these charts to keep the size down. And we'll work with you on that during the setup. The installation is very hands-on, so we make sure by the end of this, we get what you need for a downtime situation. And then additionally, this information can be customized. The vast majority of clients stick with the stock chart definitions, but because NextGen is so flexible, we really had to be build ChartGuard to be flexible too. So if there's customizations, tweaks we need to do, we can discuss those as part of the sales and installation process to accommodate your needs. Because again, we want to make sure you have the essential information to see patients during downtime. So now I'll go ahead and turn it back to Tom to walk you through what the appointment book and chart looks like.
Okay, thank you, Joe. So this is show you what the chart looks like. This is what the patient chart looks like, and you'll see. Let me make it a little bit bigger here. You'll see at the top is the patient information, and then responsible party, the insurances. So your demographic information is at the beginning, and then as Joe mentioned, each of the sections of data shows up. So here's your allergy information, and it shows up in a grid format. Here's your active medications information. Here's your labs information as well. So you can see the information here, and then as we get down to the bottom, our vital signs, and then here's our documents and our images. And here's an example of an image as well. So that's what the charts look like. This is what the appointment listing looks like. So here you have on the appointment listing, and each, as Joe mentioned, each location would get an appointment listing for their location. So you'll have the name of the individual that's coming in for the appointment, when they're coming in, what they're coming in for, and who they're coming in to see. So that will be at the front desk. Will be able to access that and understand who's coming in. Okay, so that's an example of the patient chart and an example of the appointment listing, what that looks like. So next, what we'll this is a testimonial that we got from one of our clients. This is an orthopedic practice in Tennessee who took the time to write us a quick email on their experience with ChartGuard. They're a fairly large organization now. They have about 20 locations, and they've been using ChartGuard for several years. When they purchased ChartGuard, and I believe it was in the summer, like in June timeframe when they purchased it, they had experienced an outage at 2 of their largest locations about 6 months later. And prior to implementing ChartGuard, they typically closed the clinics that were affected by an outage and turned away their patients. After they implemented ChartGuard, they were able to see their patients with minimal disruption using the appointment listing and the PDF chart files that I showed to you that were generated by ChartGuard. And as a result of that, they were able to keep the clinical side functioning while their IT team had been working to bring NextGen back online. So you can see from the quote, you know, their physicians were quite pleased with ChartGuard. So that's what ChartGuard's about and what business continuity solution and what you should be considering as you are thinking about a business continuity, a downtime preparedness solution, some things to think about, and as well as what our solution does. So a little bit about who we are and who Attentive is. We were founded in 2003, and we have 20 plus years experience with NextGen. We have 40 some employees in the company from coast to coast, most of which are consultants that travel from practice to practice, health center to health center, working with the organizations to get as much value out of NextGen as possible. So we have, you take the 2003 and the 20 years, they do not add up, and the reason for that is Attentive started out as the IT department for a medical organization, and back in the late 90s and early 2000s, when the business mantra back then was focus on what you do best and outsource the rest, the medical organization was going to outsource the IT group. And the leaders of the IT group said, well, if you want to do that, what we'd like to do is form our own company and provide services back to you. So they agreed to do that. And from that point forward, we have worked with over 350 to 400 clients that use NextGen, and we have become a strategic partner with NextGen as well. This is a quick look at how Attentive generates our revenue. We generate it basically through 5 service lines. We have a consulting service line where, as I mentioned, we have our consultants that go out to health centers and practices working on improving workflows, improving business process, working with you organizations on revenue cycle management, compliance and optimization of NextGen. We have a group of developers that can develop customized templates, develop customized reports. We have a group of developers in Joe's group that develop the productivity tools that and products that we provide and sell. Those products, ChartGuard is one, but we also have a couple other ones as well. We have a group of technology folks that can provide IT managed services, meaning that they can support your printers, your laptops, your desktops, your local area networks, your servers. We also have our own hosting center, so we can do complete hosting out of our center as well. We can provide help desk support, and then we're also a NextGen partner and reseller. We can provide any one of these solutions in a point solution or combined together as an integrated solution. This is just a quick look at some of the products that we've developed, that Joe's group has developed. We have our refund manager product that streamlines and automates the way that you handle credit balances on patient accounts and issue refunds. We have our multiple encounter billing manager, which is a product that for practices and health centers that may have 2 practices or two entities where you have to enter in multiple charges, multiple encounters for a single patient visit. This allows you to do it from one screen rather than have to go between multiple screens to get the job done, saving the individual time. We have our interface to Phreesia that allows you to get more information over there through the Phreesia interface. And then we have our unapplied deposit manager software that makes it much easier and saves a lot of time with regards to managing the processing of copay dollars and deposit money and unapplied dollars on patient accounts. So just a quick look at some of our products. With regards to next steps, if you have any questions with regards to what you have seen or heard during the webinar today, give me a call or Joe a call or send us an email and we can answer any questions that you have. If you have an interest in seeing a more in-depth, discussion about our ChartGuard solution and how it would work within your environment and work with your current processes, we can have a discussion about that as well. And now what we'll do is we'll take your questions.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Tom and Joe. Thank you for walking us through that. Again, everybody, thank you for joining us today. If you have questions, remember that you can type them in the questions area of the webinar control panel, and we'll just read them off in the order that we received them. We only have a couple, so if you have questions, please feel free to type them. We are happy to answer them. So first question, can we use this preemptively before we have a planned outage? And if so, would the workflow be different for that?
This is Joe. I'll go ahead and take that one. Absolutely, you can. We have clients who do that on a routine basis as part of their upgrade planning. They contact us and see if they can get ChartGuard extended out for a couple more days than they'd normally run it. So if you think the outage could really go sideways and you're only doing 1 or 2 days of charts, you may want to do 3 or 4 days of charts, that kind of thing. So we can work with you to verify before that your ChartGuard is operational and giving you what you need, and then go ahead and do your upgrade and you'll have those charts out there for you in case the system's not up in time.
Great, thank you, Joe. We occasionally have patients asking for a copy of their medical record when they're checking out. Would we be able to use this to accomplish that?
Actually, we have an add-on to ChartGuard. It's called ChartGuard On Demand. It's a product similar to ChartGuard, whereas ChartGuard focuses on continuity and runs each night. ChartGuard On Demand allows you to search up specific patients or populations of patients and produce those charts within several minutes. Now, if you wanted to use ChartGuard to do that, you could simply schedule an appointment into a kind of a resource who, isn't really seeing patients at that time, and ChartGuard will catch it and generate the chart, and that'll produce it the next day. But if you need it within several minutes, then again, ChartGuard On Demand would be the solution. And, contact Tom and we can go ahead and set up a demonstration for your practice about that.
Great, thanks, Joe. And it looks like this might be our last question. So again, if you have them, we'll stick around for a minute so that we'll answer them all. We have over 100 providers. Will that complicate things for ChartGuard?
No, ChartGuard is built to be scalable. It can run several what we call ChartGuard engines. Those are the brains that create the PDF files. So for a large practice that's going to generate several thousand charts per night, we'd recommend having several of those engines running, partially for balancing the workload, but partially for redundancy too, in case a server goes down during the process. And again, as mentioned during the demo, we'll go ahead and work with you on the scope of what's going to be in those charts to make sure, again, it's the chart you need that'll be produced within the time frame that you have.
Okay, perfect. Well, it looks like that's all the questions that we have, but if you think of questions after the fact, you see both Joe and Tom's information up on the screen. You can reach out to them directly. Otherwise, you can always reply back to the email that I'll be sending within the next week here with a link to the slides and recording. Basically, any way that you can get a hold of us, we're happy to help. So please don't hesitate to ask. That's what we're here for. So thank you again for taking your lunch to join us today, and I hope that this was beneficial for you in your practice, and look forward to seeing you at our next upcoming webinars here in July.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much.